Rio de Janeiro, Part 2.
Rio de Janeiro, Part 2. Table of Contents.
Sights of Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro is Brazil's primary tourist attraction and resort. It receives the most visitors per year of any city in South America, with 3 million international tourists a year.
Rio de Janeiro has world-class hotels, approximately 80 kilometers of beachland, and the famous Corcovado and Sugarloaf mountains. Although Rio has had a thriving tourism sector in the past, the industry entered a decline in the last quarter of the 20th century.
Annual international airport arrivals dropped from 621,000 to 378,000 and average hotel occupancy dropped to 50% between 1985 and 1993.
The fact that Brasilia replaced Rio de Janeiro as the Brazilian capital and São Paulo replaced Rio as the country's commercial center has also been cited as a leading cause of the decline. Rio de Janeiro's government has since undertaken to modernize the city's economy, reduce its chronic social inequalities, and improve its commercial standing as part of an initiative for the regeneration of the tourism industry.
Culture and landmarks or Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro is the main cultural hub in Brazil. Its architecture embraces churches and buildings dating from the 16th to the 19th centuries, blending with the world-renowned designs of the 20th.
Rio was home to the Portuguese imperial family and capital of the country for many years, and was influenced by Portuguese, English and French architecture. Rio de Janeiro inherited from the past a strong cultural role. It is the leader in national cinema and has the main production centers of Brazilian TV. This is the central part of Rio de Janeiro.
This is a closer look at the central part of Rio de Janeiro. The Teatro Municipal of Rio de Janeiro is one of the most resplendent buildings in the downtown area of Rio de Janeiro. The Teatro Municipal is home of one of the largest stages in Latin America and one of Brazil's most well-known venues for opera, ballet, and classical music.
The Teatro Municipal was inspired by the Paris Opera of Garnier, and built in 1905 by the architect Francisco Pereira Passos.
The statues on the top of two women representing poetry and music are by Rodolfo Bernardelli.
The interior is rich with furnishings and fine paintings, and has almost 1,700 seats including stained glass from France, ceilings of rose-colored marble and a 1,000-pound crystal chandelier.
The exterior walls of the Teatro Municipal are dotted with inscriptions bearing the names of famous Brazilians, as well as many other international celebrities. The Cathedral of Rio de Janeiro, Portuguese, Catedral Metropolitana do Rio de Janeiro or Catedral de São Sebastião do Rio de Janeiro, is the seat of the Archbishop of Rio de Janeiro. The Catedral de São Sebastião do Rio de Janeiro is dedicated to Saint Sebastian, the patron saint of Rio de Janeiro.
The cathedral is located in the center of the city.
This shows the location of the Catedral de São Sebastião with respect to the Teatro Municipal and Avenida Branco.
The current church was built between 1964 and 1979 and replaced a series of old churches that had served as cathedrals since 1676.
The cathedral is conical in form, with a 315 feet, 96 meters, internal diameter and an overall height of 246 feet, 75 meters. It has a standing room capacity of 20,000.
The cathedral's full rectilinear stained glass windows soar 210 feet 64 meters from flue to ceiling. The Catedral de San Sebastião is at Avenida República do Chile 245 and open daily from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
The Biblioteca Nacional is the seventh largest library in the world. Its collections include over 9 million items. And close by is the U.S. consulate.
This is the Biblioteca Nacional, the National Library of Brazil. The Museu Nacional de Belas Artes, National Museum of Fine Arts, is one of the most important museums in Brazil.
The Nacional de Belas Artes, known as the National Museum of Fine Arts, features Brazil's best 19th and 20th century artists.
The first Mass in Brazil, 1861, by Victor Moraes, is in the Museu Nacional de Belas Artes.
The Paço Imperial, or Imperial Palace, is a historic building that was built in the 18th century to serve as the residence for the governors of colonial Brazil.
From 1808, the Paço Imperial was used as a royal residence by King John VI of Portugal as King of Portugal, and later also as King of Brazil.
The Paço Imperial is in central Rio, not far from the port, due to its architectural and historical significance. It is one of Brazil's most important historic buildings. Today, the Paço Imperial serves as a cultural center. This shows the location of the Paço Imperial in central Rio, not far from the port.
The Pedro Ernesto Palace was built to house the Brazilian Parliament, and is now occupied by the City Council.
Carmen Miranda is the 1940s Hollywood actress and singer that is remembered in this museum, that displays her knockout costumes, jewelry, 5-inch high, sequin-covered shoes, records, movie posters and other memorabilia. The Carmen Miranda is in the Flamengo district in a small park surrounded by full lanes of traffic. Inside the banana-shaped building, the small collection illustrates Carmen Miranda's life. A large number of her publicity photos are on display blown up to near life-size, along with smaller photos showing the story of her life and career, including her 1939 American breakthrough in the Broadway musical Streets of Paris. Also on display is the outfit Carmen Miranda wore to the 1941 Academy Awards ceremony, as well as jewelry and accessories, including the trademark tall fruit hats.
The museum also has a large collection of video documentaries, biographies, the movies she starred in, and a compilation of her songs.
The Convent of St. Anthony, or Convento do Santo Antonio, was completed in 1780, but some parts date from 1615, making it one of Rio's oldest structures.
This shows the location of the Convento do Santo Antonio with respect to the Teatro Municipal, the Cathedral do São Sebastião, and Avenida Branco.
This again shows the location of the Convento do Santo Antonio with respect to the Teatro Municipal, the Cathedral do São Sebastião, and Avenida Branco.
Note that the Convento do Santo Antonio has no bell tower. Its bells hang from a double arch on the monastery ceiling. An exterior mausoleum contains the tombs of the offspring of Don Pedro I and Don Pedro II.
The Baroque interior of Convento do Santo Antonio contains priceless colonial art, including wood carvings and wall paintings. The sacristy is covered with azulejos, which are Portuguese tiles. The Igreja de Nossa Senhora da Candelária represents Brazil's 18th century. The church was built on the site of a chapel, founded in 1610 by Antonio de Palma after he survived a shipwreck. Paintings in the present dome tell his tale. Construction on the present church began in 1775. Although the emperor formally dedicated it in 1811, work on the dome was not completed until 1877.
The sculpted bronze doors we exhibited at the 1889 World's Fair in Paris. Mosteiro de São Bento is one of the finest colonial churches in Brazil. Built between 1617 and 1641 on Morro de São Bento. The monastery has a fine view over the city.
Mosteiro de São Bento is very close to the Moa cruise ship terminal.
This shows the location of the Mosteiro de São Bento with respect to the Moa cruise ship terminal. The simple facade hides a Baroque interior richly decorated in gold. A highlight among many is its intricately wood-carved altar.
Christ the Redeemer, or Cristo Redentor, monument of Jesus Christ, is on top of Corcovado Mountain, 709 meters above sea level. It was inaugurated in 1931, after nearly 5 years of work. A symbol of Catholicism, the monument has become one of the most internationally recognized icons of Rio in Brazil. In 2007, Cristo Redentor was named one of the new 7 wonders of the modern world. The cog train to the top of Mount Corcovado leaves the Cachimveio station every hour, on the hour and a half past the hour.
The ride is fairly quick, about 20 minutes. There is a small wait halfway as the 2 trains pass each other. The train stops at a few stations on the way up. Sometimes the view from the top can be obscured by the clouds. This shows the location of the Christ the Redeemer monument of Jesus Christ on top of Corcovado Mountain with respect to the Sugarloaf. This again shows the location of the Christ the Redeemer monument of Jesus Christ on top of Corcovado Mountain with respect to Sugarloaf Mountain.
Sugarloaf Mountain.
Sugarloaf Mountain is at the mouth of Guanabara Bay on a peninsula that sticks out into the Atlantic Ocean. It rises 1,300 feet, 400 meters, above the harbor.
Sugarloaf Mountain is a symbol of Rio and of Brazil. It has appeared in films such as 007 and TV series like The Simpsons.
Why is it called Sugarloaf?
It is called Sugarloaf because of its resemblance to the traditional shape of concentrated refined loaf sugar.
A sugarloaf was the traditional form in which refined sugar was produced and sold until the late 19th century, when granulated and cubed sugars were introduced.
To reach the summit, passengers take 2 cable cars. The first ascends to the shorter Morro de Açúcar, 220 meters high. The second car ascends to Pão de Açúcar.
The Italian-made bubble-shaped cars offer passengers 360-degree views of the surrounding city.
Each car takes only 3 minutes from start to finish. Departures are available every 20 minutes between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.
The fare is $11 for Morro de Açúcar, or $22 for the whole way to Pão de Açúcar.
This is the cable car station on Pão de Açúcar. The summit can be reached via a 2-stage cable car trip from Praia Vermelha, with an intermediate stop on Morro da Urca. It offers views second only to Corcovado Mountain. This is the cable car going down from Morro da Urca.
The Rio de Janeiro Botanical Garden. Botanico do Rio de Janeiro. is one of the great tropical botanical gardens of the world. The Jardim Botânico do Rio de Janeiro was founded in 1808 by Dom João VI, who then was Prince Regent of the United Kingdom of Brazil and Portugal.
This shows the location of the Jardim Botânico with respect to Lagoa Rodrigo de Freitas and Copacabana.
This again shows the location of the Jardim Botânico with respect to Lagoa Rodrigo de Freitas and Copacabana.
This shows the location of the Jardim Botânico with respect to Ipanema. This again shows the location of the Jardim Botânico with respect to Ipanema.
The botanical garden was originally created to adapt to the Brazilian climate plants like nutmeg, pepper and cinnamon that we imported from the Western Indies. The botanical garden was opened for public visitation in 1822 during the reign of Dom Pedro I, the son of Dom João VI.
In 1937 it was listed as part of the Brazilian Historical Heritage, and in 1992 it was named a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve.
Copacabana. Copacabana is known for its 2.5-mile-long, 4-kilometer beach, one of the most famous in the world.
Copacabana Beach plays host to millions of revelers during the annual New Year's Eve celebrations, and, in most years, Copacabana has been the official venue of the FIFA Beach Soccer World Cup.
Panama and Leblon are two of the wealthiest regions in South America.
Ipanema and Leblon have beaches that attract millions of tourists every year, famous for their elegance and their views.
This is the Ipanema Beach.
The neighborhood of Copacabana Beach hosts one of the world's most spectacular New Year's Eve parties, Réveillon, as more than 2 million revelers crowd onto the sands to watch the fireworks display.
As of 2001, the fireworks have been launched from boats to improve the safety of the event.
Every December 31st, 2.5 million people gather at Copacabana Beach to celebrate New Year's in Rio de Janeiro.
The crowd, mostly dressed in white, celebrates all night at the hundreds of different shows and events along the beach. It is the second largest celebration after that of the Carnaval.
Sports in Rio. Rio de Janeiro hosted the 2016 Summer Olympic Games, and became the first Brazilian and South American city to host the Games.
Maracanã Stadium is Brazil's largest stadium, located in the north of the city. This was the site of the opening of the 2016 Summer Olympics.
Brazil was the official host of the 2014 FIFA World Cup, and Rio de Janeiro is one of the host cities. The most popular sport is football. Rio de Janeiro is home to 5 traditional Brazilian football clubs: América Football Club, Botafogo, Fluminense, Vasco da Gama and Flamengo.
According to a national survey and to FIFA numbers, the Flamengo team has the largest number of supporters in the world. Other notable sports events in Rio include the MotoGP Brazilian Grand Prix and the World Beach Volleyball Finals.
Carnival, or Carnaval, from Latin carnevale, is an annual celebration in the Roman Catholic tradition. This annual celebration allows merrymaking and red meat consumption before the more sober 40 days of Lent penance, which culminates with Holy or Passion Week and Easter.
In 1840, the first Carnaval in Rio was celebrated with a masked ball. As years passed, adorned floats and costumed revelers became a tradition amongst the celebrants.
Carnaval is known as a historic root of Brazilian music. Rio de Janeiro has many carnival choices, including the famous Samba School, Escolas de Samba, parades in the Sambadrome Exhibition Center,
and the popular Blocos de Carnaval, street revelry, which parade in almost every corner of the city.
The Cordeio do Bola Prata parades in the center of the city is one of the most traditional carnivals, and 500,000 people attended in one day. The Suvaco do Cristo parades in the Botanic Garden, directly below the Redeemer statue's arm. The name translates to Christ's armpit in English, and was chosen for that reason.
The Carmelitas band was supposedly created by nuns, but in fact is just a theme chosen by the band. It parades in the hills of Teresa.
Simpatia e Acute Case Amor is one of the most popular parades in Ipanema. The name translates as friendliness is almost love. Banda de Ipanema is the most traditional band in Ipanema. It attracts a wide range of revelers, including families and a wide spectrum of the gay population, notably spectacular drag queens. Samba Schools.
A samba school, in Portuguese, Escola de Samba, is a popular club or dancing school in huge square compounds, quadras de samba, devoted to practicing and exhibiting samba, an African-Brazilian dance.
The schools are traditionally associated with a particular neighborhood, often shanty towns, or a town.
Throughout the year, the samba schools have various happenings and events. Most importantly, rehearsals for the main event, the yearly samba parade, Desfile das Escolas de Samba.
Some of the most popular schools are Mangueira,
Salgueiro, Império Serrano,
and Unidas da Tijuca. The 1984 film Blame It on Rio was filmed nearby, with the rental house used by the story's characters sitting at the edge of the forest on a mountain overlooking the famous beaches.
Another movie featuring Rio was Road to Rio, a 1947 comedy film starring Bing Crosby, Bob Hope and Dorothy Lamour, and was the fifth of the Road to series of movies.
We will next have a short video clip on the samba. Port and transportation.
The port of Rio de Janeiro is Brazil's third busiest port in cargo volume and is the center for cruise vessels.
Over 100,000 passengers annually visit the port of Rio de Janeiro on almost 100 cruise ships. Rio de Janeiro has two subway lines, Metro Rio, with 26 miles, 42 kilometers, and 32 stations, plus several commuter rail lines. Future plans include building a third subway line to Niterói and São Gonçalo, including an underwater tunnel beneath Guanabara Bay to supplement the ferry service currently there. The metro is Rio's safest and cleanest form of public transport. The two lines serve the city 7 days a week.
The first line runs from General Aço Rio in Ipanema to Sans Pena in Tijuca. The second line runs from Botafogo, sharing 10 stations with the first line, terminating at Pavuna in northern Rio.
This is an interior view of a Rio de Janeiro metro station. On the right is the former Brazilian president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
This is the Metro Rio.
A favela is the generally used term for a shanty town in Brazil. In the late 18th century, the first settlements were called Bairros Africanos, African neighborhoods. And they were the place where former slaves with no land ownership and no options for work lived.
Over the years, Many freed black slaves moved in.
However, before the first settlement called a favela came into being, poor blacks were pushed away from downtown into the far suburbs. Most modern favelas appeared in the 1970s due to a rural exodus, when many people left rural areas of Brazil and moved to cities. Without finding a place to live, many people ended up in a favela.
Although Rio has about 500,000 people living in favelas, the largest favela population is in São Paulo, with over 600,000.
The climate of Rio de Janeiro.
Will it be hot in Rio, or will it be very hot?
Rio de Janeiro is along the Atlantic coast in the south of Brazil. Most of Brazil is in the tropics, but the extreme southern part has a subtropical climate.
Both São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro are very close to the Tropic of Capricorn.
Here are the average high and low temperatures in degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year in Rio de Janeiro. Here are the average high and low temperatures in degrees Celsius throughout the year in Rio de Janeiro.
Rainfall in Rio de Janeiro.
Here is the rainfall throughout the year in Rio de Janeiro in inches.
The yearly total is 43 inches or 109 centimeters. We see that the rainy season is in the months of October through May.
Here is the rainfall throughout the year in Rio de Janeiro in centimeters.
The money of Brazil. 1 Brazilian real equals $0.19 US, and $1 equals 5.21 Brazilian reais.
This is a comparison of the Brazilian real to the US dollar.
This is a comparison of the US dollar to the Brazilian real.
This is a 10 Rias banknote.
This is a 50 Rias banknote.
Scenes of Rio de Janeiro.
This is a panorama of Rio de Janeiro taken from Corcovado. Beginning at the Sugarloaf mountain on the far left to Humaitá in the middle and Leblon at the far right.
This is the Centro do Rio, or the central region of Rio de Janeiro. This is the skyline of downtown Rio de Janeiro. This is the Centro do Rio, or the central region of Rio de Janeiro.
Central business district of Rio de Janeiro.
This is the downtown area of Rio de Janeiro.
This is Avenida Rio de Janeiro. This is Rio de Janeiro. This is Rio de Janeiro.
This is Rio de Janeiro.
The 1984 film, Blame It on Rio, was filmed nearby, with the rental house used by the story's characters sitting at the edge of the forest on a mountain overlooking the famous beaches.
Another movie featuring Rio was Road to Rio, a 1947 comedy film starring Bing Crosby, Bob Hope and Dorothy Lamour. It was the fifth of the Road to series of movies.
Recommended videos.
Recommended videos. Recommended videos. Recommended videos.
Recommended video, Andy Williams and Antonio Carlos Jobim, Girl from Ipanema.
Recommended video, Rio Up Close. Walking tour.
Rio de Janeiro, Part 2 Table of Contents.
Thanks for watching. Please watch some more of my great videos.